Hello, my name is Frank Strocio, and I welcome you to take a journey with me into the unknown, the world of the supernatural. For many years, I've witnessed some of the most startling and amazing things, but for fear of ridicule, I've kept them quiet until, of course, now. This past June, I published a book. It's called Stories Best Told in the Dark. This is a copy of it right here. It's on sale at Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and some other places. And it contains a collection of short stories or vignettes that span some 80 years, starting in 1943 with a really strange event that happened to my mom when she was only 12 years old, and finishes up with my overnight stay at the Lizzie Borden House in 2020 and some of the experiences I had there. These stories are all true. They've not been embellished at all. So it's kind of unlike most books on paranormal psychology that are written like a fiction book. This is written chronologically. Each event is described exactly how it happened, and in some cases, there are no answers. The story just ends, and that's all there is. So it's an interesting kind of look at experiences I've had over the world. I've traveled, for the last probably 30 years, 1.5 million, 2 million miles, all through Europe and Asia and Central America and Canada, North America, and stayed in many places and experienced many things. So for this podcast, my intention really is to get it started or get it kicked off, talking about some of the more significant stories that are within the book I just published. But my overall goal, I guess, would be to have all of you who have had similar experiences or bizarre, strange things happen that you would like to talk about. You can email me, and we can talk over the phone or whatever, and maybe put them on this podcast. In my next book, which is Stories for a Sleepless Night, is the title. I'm hoping to put a number of stories I get from all of my listeners in that book. So that's kind of my intent for this website. So if you're into paranormal and creepy stuff that's absolutely true, this is the place. You've landed on the right page. So what I'd like to start today talking about is one of those events that's in my book. This is one I called A Haunting in New York. It's in chapter 22 of my book. And first, I guess a little background would be important. I was offered a job at a company in central New York. It was a corporate position, and the requirement was that all the corporate employees had to live in the city where the corporate headquarters were. I live in Rhode Island. This was New York. I didn't want to move. I didn't want to uproot everybody to move out there. So I figured 3.5, 4 hours drive on a Monday morning, get a hotel in New York, stay in a hotel or get an apartment, stay in an apartment all week, and then come home on Friday. And I'm close enough that if I had to come home in the middle of the week, that would be doable as well. So that's what I did. I found an apartment that it was uncanny actually, because it was only about a 5-minute to 10-minute walk from my apartment to work. Wasn't even worth taking the car. If I did, it was a couple minutes. I was in the parking lot. It was only $400 a month when most of the other apartments were around $1,200 at the time. It included water. It included utilities. So it was like too good to be true. And so I took it. I moved in on a weekend. My brother-in-law helped me, and my son-in-law helped me. We rented a truck, and we brought furniture that we don't use at our house here in Rhode Island, and moved it up there so I'd have a chair to sit in, a table, and things like that. And that following Monday, I started my job. So this is a company that I had been working at as a consultant. So now I was going to be an employee of this company. And that first day, like any first day on a job, you're with human resources and you do meet and greets with all the important people and you get a look at the operation. But since I had already been working there, I knew everybody, I knew the operation, I had worked in the operation. It was kind of just a formality and getting to know some of the safety policies and some of the HR policies. So it was a pretty straightforward day. I got my laptop computer and got some essential things. They gave me a BlackBerry phone. This is back when BlackBerries were big. So they gave me a company paid phone. And they introduced me to my team. I had 5 people reporting directly to me, and then I had responsibility for facilities around the country. So I had a lot of traveling to do as well. So my story really starts here. That first day when I got out of work, I took one of my employees, a gentleman named Steve, to a local restaurant, and we had a good meal and talked about how I wanted to run the organization and the things I wanted to do. Meal went good. Everything went great. We agreed to meet at 8 o'clock the next morning. And I headed to Target to pick up some small things that I needed, like a coffee pot, just stuff that you need to get by. So I didn't have to go out to eat every night. I could make a cup of coffee in the morning. I stopped by Dunkin' Donuts, got a bag of coffee for the morning. So I get to my apartment. By the time I got there, it was dark out, but the grounds were well lit. My apartment was on the second floor, so when you go in the side door, you walk past a set of mailboxes on the right-hand side. You turn to the right, go up a flight of stairs, you come to a landing. You turn 180 degrees up another flight of stairs, and you get to a little hallway where there's 2 apartments. Mine was on the left, and somebody else's was all the way down the other end. So that night, as I went into the apartment, keep in mind I'm carrying a couple of suitcases. I got a backpack on my back. I got another backpack over my shoulder because I had picked up stuff at Target and at Dunkin' Donuts and that. So I was trying to make as few trips up and down as I could. As I go into the door and close the door behind me, I hear a crackling noise, and the light bulb above that was lighting up the stairway just went out. So it was extremely hard to see at that point. It wasn't dark enough that I couldn't see the hand in front of my face, but it was pretty dark. And so I'm leaning against the wall, dragging my suitcases, going one step at a time, nice and slow up the stairs. By the time I get to the landing, I hear something upstairs that sounded like, almost like a waterfall or a gushing water or something. As I went up the second flight of stairs and got outside my apartment door, it became apparent to me that the noise was coming from inside my apartment. I fumbled for the keys. I opened the door. The light switch was right around the corner. As you go in, you just reach to the right and hit the switch. And the apartment was laid out where you enter into the living room. And then diagonally across is the kitchen. And then on the same wall is the light switch that I turned on is the entry to the bathroom. And all the way to the right, all the way down the end is the bedroom. So I open the door and I immediately get hit with this steam. It seemed like a fog that hit me. And I realized that the gushing noise I heard was the hot water faucet was turned on full blast and had apparently been on for a long time. So I went in, I opened the window above the sink, I shut off the faucet and realized that all the faucets in the bathroom were also on, all the hot water faucets, the tub and the sink. So I went in there and shut them off. I opened up all the windows, let the hot air out, the steam out. And I said, boy, that's weird. having been studying demonology, angelology, I've been involved in the paranormal. I'm a little bit psychic. My mother, much more so, and my great-great-grandmother was a well-known psychic, so that was kind of, I have a feeling when I go into a place if something isn't right. And it didn't feel right, and I kept telling myself that, my mind always goes there, and it really shouldn't. Most everything can be explained, I'm telling myself. So I explained that to myself that, it's a buildup of pressure. Old plumbing can cause a faucet to turn on. And I checked with a plumber friend of mine subsequent to this episode, and he said, yeah, it is possible. He said, but all the faucets in the apartment at the same time is highly unlikely. But I chose to go with, yeah, it's possible. So I shut off all the faucets, and I started unpacking my bags and that. And I put my coffee pot on the counter, and I put my bag of Dunkin' Donuts coffee right next to the coffee pot. I hear the hangers in the closet starting to clang together. So I said, oh boy, where my mind went again. So I go into the bedroom, I turn on the light, I open the closet doors. There's obviously nothing there, but some of the hangers were swaying a little bit. I figured, hey, now that I'm here, I'll start hanging my clothes up. I did, but there was an awful stench in the closet. It smelled almost like roadkill, if you've caught a mouse in a trap and it had been there for days, what it would smell like. And I made a kind of a mental note and get some Lysol tomorrow when I get out of work and spray this place down. But other than that, it was fine. I hung up all my clothes. I went into the living room. I sat in the recliner that I had brought over the weekend, and I put my new laptop on my lap. And I had purchased some CDs at Target. It was a PBS series that had been on some years earlier called Vietnam, America's Conflict. Since I didn't have a TV, my plan was I would watch DVDs and that at night, have a drink, whatever, go to bed. And I had bought a bottle of red wine, Brunello di Montalcino, which is one of my favorites, and I had a nice glass of Brunello. While I'm sitting there, I smell cigarette smoke, and it's really, really bad. And I'm allergic to tobacco smoke, so I got up and I opened the windows, and within a few minutes it was gone. I mean, totally gone. And I thought that was odd. Where the heck did that come from? Other than that, nothing happened out of the ordinary that night. I went to bed and I did kind of mull it over in my mind, the weird things that I had witnessed since I walked in the door, from the light going out to everything else. But that was it. I slept good that night. Got up in the morning and all my blankets and sheets were on the floor. And so in my entire life, I'm just about 70 years old now. Never one time have I ever kicked all the blankets off my bed. But this morning they were on the floor at the foot of the bed. I was cold, I was freezing, and I said, wow, that's weird. I made the bed. I got up. Was going to start a pot of coffee, take a shower. When I went to start a pot of coffee, the coffee was gone. I looked everywhere, all the cupboards, everywhere. The coffee was gone. I started questioning myself, did I even get coffee the night before? Maybe I had thought about getting it, but never really did. So I says, I'll get coffee when I get to work. I go in, I take a shower. I get out of the shower, dry up. I'm walking back through the bathroom to go into the kitchen, and I see one of the faucets turn itself on. I'm watching it as it's turning. It was the creepiest thing. And I reached over and shut it off, and I stood there waiting for it to come back on again, and it didn't. I said, wow, we really have a plumbing problem here, but I'm really not worried about it because water is included in my rent. So if it bothers the owner, he'll do something about it. I'll just shut them off if they turn on. And many, many times going forward after that, the faucets would just come on at any given time, and I'd have to go shut them off. So that was a weird start to the second day at work. Got to work, had a meeting with the team. The day went really well. Nothing out of the ordinary. I told Steve and the other guys on the team what had happened the night before. They all thought, wow, that's weird, but nobody really gave it that much thought. Next day, I get home, and it's the weirdest thing. I got this really strange feeling when I walked into the house, like I was being watched. You ever get that feeling like you look around, there's nobody there, but you get this feeling somebody's watching you? I had that feeling all night. I sat down to watch my movie again, and then I get overcome with smoke again. That happened every single night after that. At 9 o'clock, I would be engulfed in smoke. I don't know where it came from. I open the window, 5 minutes or so, it's gone. So I just, well, maybe the guy downstairs is a smoker. I went to bed that night. Nothing really happened. I woke up in the morning, the blankets were off the bed again. I said, I gotta get a camera or something and see what's going on here. I don't know how they're coming off the bed. So I had a number of little things that happened, but I had to travel to Beaverton, Oregon, to visit one of our plants for a week. So I was gone for a week. Before coming back, I had to go to Lithia Springs, Georgia for another week. So I was gone, I think, like 3 weeks. But that whole time, I couldn't get those incidents out of my mind. So when I finally get back, my first night in the apartment, I wake up in the morning and I'm holding someone's hand. My arm is up in the air and I'm holding someone's hand. Now I'm kind of in that, I don't know if it's pre-tagogic or pre-optic state. I keep getting it mixed up, but the state between being fully awake and fully asleep, that transition. And I thought I was home. I thought my wife had grabbed my hand and she's saying, like, it's time to get up, Frank, right? When I open my eyes, I'm still in New York. It's pitch dark and somebody's holding my hand, but there's nobody there. And then they let go and my hand falls down on the bed. I get up, I put the lights on, and I'm very religious. I have rosary beads with me all the time, especially when I'm investigating something. And for the rest of the night, it was pretty much a sleepless night. So I had the lights on all night. I made a pot of coffee, and that was that. Oh, just to digress a little bit, that first morning when my coffee was missing, that night I went to Dunkin' Donuts to buy a bag of coffee, and the guy said, boy, you go through coffee quick. And I said, what do you mean? He says, well, you were just here last night buying a bag, you're buying another one. And I realized that, I had bought a bag and somehow misplaced it. And when I got home that night, the bag was right where I left it next to the coffee pot. So I had 2 bags of coffee now, so I could drink as much coffee as I wanted for a while. Every now and then my coffee would not be there in the morning, and I'd get home at night and it would be there. So God only knows where the coffee goes. It had a mind of its own, but it was like a poltergeist or something was playing with me, and I just went along with it, and I figured, hey, I need, for $400 a month, this apartment was great, and I was just going to stay with it. I wasn't going to let this stuff kind of scare me away. Next night, I'm laying there, and I wake up as the sheets and blankets are being pulled off the bed. I'm watching them go down the bed and onto the floor, and there's nobody there. Lights went back on. Another sleepless night. Then luckily I'm traveling for another 3, 4, 5 weeks. I would go off on these trips around North America, Central America, and be gone for a while. The night when I got back, I lay in bed that night. Everything was the same as always. The smoke at 9 o'clock, the hangers clanging in the closet. That used to happen like every day. I would, at odd moments, just before something would happen, I would hear the hangers clanging, and then something would happen. The smoke would come, or the faucets would turn on, but it was always predicated by this clanging noise of the hangers. And then you put on the light, you open the door, and all you see is the hangers just moving a little bit, and there's nobody in there. So I kind of figured out, the guy down the end of the hall in that apartment must have a way into my apartment through the closet. And that's how my coffee's disappearing and coming back. He says, I got to find out who this guy is. I said, I bet you that's what's going on, So next night I get home and I see the guy who lives downstairs from me. His name was Matt. Retired, but a businessman. He had a big Cadillac Sedan DeVille. Nice guy, but he was a chain smoker. So I made up my mind that the smoke I would smell every night in the apartment was Matt downstairs, smoking one cigarette after another, and it was somehow coming up through the floorboards. It made perfect sense. And he told me, well, I'm in bed by 9 o'clock every night. I said, well, 9 o'clock's when I smell it. He said, well, I'm in bed at that time. I said, well, I don't know. And then he says to me, I just want to let you know, you're the only one who's been in that apartment who's been here more than 1 month. He said, it's like a revolving door up there. People come and then they leave. I said, why do they leave? He said, well, they tell me they got another job. They're going through some issues with their marriage and they have to, go back home. All kinds of excuses, and they kept talking about faucets turning on and off. I said, well, that's been happening to me since I've been here. I said, but I don't pay for the water. And he laughed and I laughed and that was it. So I decided to check out this closet and see if there's like a door or something that this neighbor upstairs can get through. Nothing. The wall's solid. There's just nothing there. I find out when I meet the property manager that there's no one in the apartment on the second floor. No one is living there at the moment. So if there was a door, I don't know who would be going through it anyway, because there was nobody there. So I'm getting really kind of nervous. And, every night it was something. I mean, the book goes into more detail, but every night it was something. One night I'm sitting there and someone sits down on the end of the bed. Again, I think I'm home. I think it's my wife sitting on the end of the bed to put her shoes on or something. I wake up and I'm in New York. And there's an indentation in the mattress between my legs where somebody is sitting, but there ain't nobody there. Needless to say, lights go on, pot of coffee goes on, another sleepless night. And I said to myself, but I said it kind of out loud, it doesn't matter what you do, I'm not leaving. I have a 1-year lease and I'm here for the year. I just want to make that clear. I said I travel 3/4 of the time. The place is yours when I'm not here, but when I'm here, you're not going to bother me. I made off like I was talking to somebody. I said, just in case there's something here. Whatever it was, it didn't like it, apparently. The next night, I'm laying in bed, and I hear this loud bang right next to my head. And next to my head was an end table right next to the bed with an alarm clock on it. And there was a big giant handprint on the side of the end table where something had whacked the table real hard. I jumped up, put the lights on. It was still there. I took my BlackBerry phone and I started taking pictures of it. Pictures that I still have today. The next morning, I wanted to see if I could wash it off, what it was, and it washed right off. I don't know what it was, but it was a handprint that was probably maybe 14 inches long, 14, 15 inches long, slender fingers. And I got the picture. In fact, I can show you the picture. I have it right here, I believe. Somewhere here. Here we are. So these are the pictures. I don't know if you can see that. You see the alarm clock. You see the alarm clock. You see the hand with the fingers. If you get a close-up of the hand, it looks like there's 5 or 6 faces behind the hand looking straight out. I tried to blow one of them out so you could see the eyes, the nose, you can see the ears, but it gets too blurry when you blow it up. So, but these are, in fact, the handprints from that night. So I put the I put the lights on again, and I was in the habit now of going to bed with my clothes on in case I had to get out quickly, because it was really starting to get bad. A couple nights later, I wake up and I'm looking, just staring at the ceiling. I didn't know why I woke up, and I got that feeling again. You know, that feeling you get like when you're a kid and you go in the basement at night, your mother says, can you check on the laundry or something? And the lights are all out and you get all creeped out until you put the light on and you feel good. Well, I'm laying there in the room like a vacuum cleaner had come on. All the light just got sucked out of the room. It got dark, dark, dark. And I saw what looked like a tall figure. Call it what you want, shadow man, shadow figure. It had like a fedora on that was also black. Eyes were like the eye shine you see when you're out hunting at night. They glowed. It was like almost like a reddish color. And it floated towards the bed, up over the bed, over me, came down over me, and grabbed my throat and started choking me to death. I couldn't breathe. I was like, first thought I must be dreaming, but I was awake. And I kept, I couldn't talk, but I was screaming like in my mind, in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, I command you to leave. After I said that the third time, it let go and it was gone. And so was I. On came the lights, and I grabbed a few things, my computer and my bag for work, went down, spent the rest of the night sleeping in my car, and then I stayed at the Hampton Inn down the street till my lease ran out. And I only went back once, and that was with my son-in-law during the day on the weekend to clean out all my furniture and that. So if it were not for the fact that the handprint I was able to photograph and I can study it, I can see it, and it were not for the bruises on my neck when I got strangled. Luckily, it was a Monday night, and by the time I got home, it was gone. But there were very faint finger marks. And I don't know, it was just very disturbing. So chapter 22 in the book talks about this in a little bit more detail than I just did. And I'm trying to keep these podcasts to half hour, and we're like 28 minutes in. But if you like this story and you'd like to hear more like this, give me a thumbs up. Subscribe button should be there below. Click on subscribe and you'll be notified when I add a new video, which will be probably like once a week. Remember, if you have had any true paranormal experiences, whether it be a haunting, a UFO encounter, an alien encounter, a cryptid sighting, anything strange and bizarre, please send me an email and tell me your story. I'm really interested in it. The email is stories best told in the dark. Let me see if I got it here. I think I got it right here, yeah. I don't know if you can see this, but I'll read it to you too. But it's stories best told in the dark. I don't know if you can see that. Probably not. But stories best told in the dark at gmail.com would be the website, the email address, I'm sorry. Just send me your story. If you want to be interviewed, if you want your story in my new book, I'll put a chapter in there for you. I'll give you credit for it. I would sure like to discuss these things with folks, but my next podcast will be about another chapter in my book. It's about when I worked at the Advanced Development Laboratory in Cambridge. We had a third floor in that building that we didn't have an occupancy permit for, so it was empty. And there was something up there, and that's all I'll say right now. But the story is quite amazing, especially what the security people, their report and everything the next day. So I'll talk about that episode. Also, when I was in Beaverton, Oregon, I had a cryptid sighting that was horrifying. I'll tell you about that. I got a bunch of stories to talk about that are in the book. And just one more time, that's my book, if you're interested. Stories Best Told in the Dark. Until next time, thank you for watching. Bye.